If you want, Joanne,
Sorry, what are you saying?
would you like me to repeat that back just to share what I was saying?
Yeah, I think it's perfect because I mean, everything you're sharing is honest, authentic, and also relatable. And I know that if we did share this video publicly, lots of people would be able to identify exactly the tools that you're using. It can be helpful for them. And it's just that journey, that walk, as you call it, which I think is a great label.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Um, yeah, so basically through the journey or the walk, as I've, dove more into my spiritual side, whether it's with breath work or a bit of meditation or just being aware as I go throughout my day, I've realized my spirit guides have become more, I guess, illuminated for lack of better words. So whether that's an, inside interaction of a peaceful moment or some sort of slightly outside downloaded information, there's a I guess, deciphering process that I've had to go through. And what's helped me do that is creating a visual aid. So creating like a spirit guide map, so to speak. Um, but what I wanted to share with you is pretty miraculous. And I'm not here true to my ego. It's not about me. And I think you'll sort of hear and feel that as I go on to share this. But after I had channeled Bob Marley and sent you the video, I had started to realize and consider what you were saying in regards to like the uniqueness of the energy that I've got. So uh, last night before going to bed, I had just put some music in. So before channeling Bob, I decided to listen to some of his music. I listened to Natural Mystic and kind of get into the energy and we're sort of merging as one and he's speaking through me. So anyways, I'm after this channeling session, about to go to bed last night, and I thought, I'll listen to Natural Mystic again. Put the vibe on one more time and just relax. And what had started happening was just this feeling, and it was very like ethereal almost, like my body just kind of started to open, and I just felt like just very open. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was the same sort of sensation of what I've experienced in the past with, sort of an energy around me, sensitively kind of looking to communicate or, you know, um, and as I'm laying there, I took my headphones out and I thought maybe someone wants to speak through me again. And physically, I started to shake a little bit as I'm laying there. And much like sort of the soul or the spirit of Bob coming inside, as you know, there's that sort of energetic transition that takes place. Yeah. So this was a similar feeling. The soul would come in or the spirit would come in, but there wasn't communication audibly outwards. It was like almost like a quick inner dialogue and then there was the next one. And what was happening was that it was almost as if, Joanne, that these spirits or these souls, after I started to speak with, Bob was speaking through me and I had another channeling experience, that there was like a familiarity to my energy. And it was like one would come in and it was like Nina Simone. And all of a sudden I felt like I was Nina.
Because I said to you when I was listening to that amazing channeling that you did with Bob Marley, and that gave me all the goosebumps and then big truth bumps, and I was looking outside as he mentioned the bird, and I was literally looking at a bird, and then I could hear Nina Simone singing that song, "Birds in the sky, you know how I feel," and it was just like, oh my gosh! I had to quickly Google it, and it was like, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, and it was just so powerful, that song. I shared it with a friend whose daughter is starting a new school system, and it was just like, it is a new dawn, is a new day, and it feels good, and I just
Oh,
felt for you because you are opening yourself up to this channeling, this world of channeling, well, this universe of channeling. It was like, yeah, they're like celebrating with jazz hands going, and it feels good. It feels, but your teams are just like, they just feel so good that you can connect in with them. And I think you've, uh, you know, you've been dismissing it and your connections for so long because you just think it's your thoughts and feelings within yourself. And, you know, there's that jumble of everything that we feel we're all connected, we're all one, but we just feel like we're just these independent little, you know, 3D meat suit beings trying to figure out, why do we feel all of these things, and who am I, and what's my purpose? And obviously, you know, we throw in lots of doubt and distractions and dismissal, and you know, your journey has been fantastic. So sorry, yes, I definitely felt she was next for you to hear her soul, feel her soul.
No, that's okay. Nothing to be sorry about. And you know, like Joanne, I appreciate this time so much because exactly what you're saying is I'm not going to say like mountain that I've been climbing, but it's almost like kind of, you know, finding your way through a pond or something, and being in a canoe and having to pick up the little tools along the way and realize, okay, what's for me, what's working, maybe, you know, this isn't for me. And I think having some discernment, like you were saying, with okay, this body or this mind or this heart is way more capable of the potential than I've given it. And sometimes it's, you know, like easy to be stuck in and of ourselves. And it's funny that you mentioned, you know, Nina Simone and that song, because as soon as you had said to me, oh, you know, that song came to mind, it was almost as if I could hear it. I couldn't hear the title, but I could hear like the rhythm or the melody. So
Yeah, and like, and then this is what I'm really noticing is our senses, because we just think, oh, that's silly. Why is that song? That's nothing. That song, I'm only remembering, recalling that song. No big deal. And then, you know, that, um, gosh, I mean, you know, I'm a very old person, and I don't really listen to much pop music these days because, you know, I've suddenly, you know, become an elderly citizen. But the song kept being pushed into my mind, and it just felt like it was everywhere. And it was this really old song from Harry Styles, about, yeah, it just, this, you know, welcome to the final show, and,
mm,
you know, just about just being ready, being the best version of ourselves, and a whole lot of stuff, because, you know, we've been here before, and, you know, we're not able to come back here, and blah, 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 blah. It's quite a meaningful song, and but the old Joe who would have dismissed everything, every message, every acknowledgement. And, you know, sometimes we're so surrounded by significant messages, meanings. You know, we're always getting information from our teams, guiding us, pushing us, you know, and whatever we actually are consciously noticing, we have to actually question what is the significance of that and the purpose of that, because we dismiss so much. We just dismiss truth, we dismiss confirmation, we dismiss love. You know, we're really good at dismissing and blocking ourselves from feeling and thinking and being.
yeah, and it's interesting you say that because a word that's kind of come up for me, or two words, I guess, is like you know, everything's spiritual, but like spiritual sensitivity. And as you're saying, like giving, that's something I've had to sort of train myself into or discipline myself into. Still a work in progress, right? Like giving credit to those little moments where it's like a voice or a message, or maybe somebody that comes to speak to you, you have a normal conversation with, okay, catching up with a friend, but later it's maybe a, you know, a sign from, I don't know, an angel, or, you know, you're supposed to talk to somebody about this. But just as you said, like giving giving value to those like little moments for sure is, it's not easy. But I will say this too, I think a big part of this is just where I'm at personally. Like I've taken a lot of time in the past 6 months after like leaving my job to actually like rework on my soul and figure out my life, and not redesign it, but step back and try to recalibrate things with the way the world's going. So I think that definitely, like, I
I
don't
think
know if,
that's kind of the journey of, you know, being awoken, is that when we see all the corruptions and the manipulation and all that sort of stuff, that is to awaken people. We don't really want to play in that kind of illusion anymore. And so
Right.
sort of, instead of being angry or frustrated or resentful for, these things that are to help others, we actually have to be respectful of the roles people are playing. And, we don't have, it's almost like we don't have the license to hate anyone. We have to empower everyone for their journey. And sometimes we can be a bit lazy with that and be a bit spiteful or revengeful and hate a certain politician or a certain influencer or whatever. We don't really truly get to that hate, but when we don't value everyone for their purpose, their significance, when we are fully awakened to it all, I mean, we do have that neutral piece. We do see people who are half kind of awake and very reactive to what's going on and why. I think it would be really helpful for them to be able to see the bigger picture and perspective of why we need to have this very urgent awakening. And it's not just about figuring out how to solve the crimes against humanity. It's about figuring out why this planet is at the state it's in, why humanity is at that state we're in, and what's to come. That seems to be from the last few years of doing all this work and getting this information. There was something else just popped into my head before. So yeah, I used to just dismiss a whole lot of just these little things that pop into my head and think, oh, that's not significant. And when I trust it and share it, often I find that I'm channeling information people need to hear, but I don't want to, because it's like, oh my God, they're going to say something like, you really need to heal your heart because the trauma from your childhood is still repeating and triggering you and hurting you and making you still feel like you're unlovable and you're very hurt by that. No one wants to call someone out like that, because that, when people are avoiding their hurt, their pain, they certainly don't want you to be telling them about it. So it's about delivery and all that stuff. When we get these senses, do we share fully?
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that too. Like that's something I've almost had to like have a bit of self-talk with too. Is like, okay, this is happening. Like, do I share this with someone? How is it going to affect not only like their response to me, but sharing this kind of information, like even with my family? It's like, yeah, okay, like the voices in your head or whatever. And
So,
no,
I got into this weird habit. I got into this weird habit of when I was talking to a friend face to face and I could feel all this stuff wanting to be shared. Instead of saying, I'm picking this up about you and your inner work and all this stuff, I would then say, oh, I have this dear friend I really love. And I would be talking about this imaginary friend that I love and saying what they're going through and how, they're on this sort of journey. And I'm creating this imaginary friend to be able to share, so it's not triggering my actual friend who's in my face. So it's just like they're not going to feel like defensive, like how dare you? You don't know me. My mother was the asshole. Whatever.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of my friend, and then read the friend through an invisible friend that's not going to trigger them so much. So then, we can talk about my dear friend, and then, this person then wants to help because we all want to help everyone, right? And so she may feel like, oh, this feels familiar. How would I want to help that friend for Joe? How would I want to care for that friend? And by creating friends, you can actually softly, without triggering them and being open, actually think how to empower that, how to have a new perspective, how to heal from that. And often, the world's a mirror, right? So we are seeing problems potentially that are triggering us to look at our own perspectives, behaviors, realities, la 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 la.
Yeah.
I actually am like, I do know I have done that like 2 or 3 times to people, and I'm actually like, am I going to go to hell for that? Because I actually, like that's technically a lie. I do have a friend. I was talking about them, so I wasn't lying. I have a friend because I do have a friend. I just didn't want to say my friend you. I was saying, oh, my friend talking about you, but I'm pretending it could be someone else, and I'm making you have maybe a belief system. So
Yeah, almost in like, yeah, almost in like a sort of like subjective way, like, lead by example type thing for sure. I kind of looked away for a second to pause because I was like, interesting, like, it's a good, like, amazing way of thinking and working through it, I think, because there's like, I don't know, like the detachment, or like it's still healthy help, but it's not, like you said, directed. You're not like shooting an arrow at somebody being like, hey, this isn't, me speaking, it's from somebody else, but the information or the energy is still there. It's just like a different way. Yeah. I'm thinking now, like, I'm gonna have to apply that.
Yeah, I sort of
For-
realized I may have had a bit of guilt because I was not being honest and saying, my friend, your inner work and your pain from your childhood is still making you so fearful, so hurt, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to share my full truth and saying, because also when you get in all these sort of senses, when you tell someone the truth that they're trying to avoid from themselves, they're not going to be like, oh, wow, that epiphany, thank you. They're like, no, you don't know me. That's not my, no, I've never been afraid of anything. I'm so spiritual, blah, 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 blah. And, so they just are not willing to be hearing something, especially if, they're not asking what's wrong with me, what's my problems, where am I sticking, blah, 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 blah. They're just reacting, and showing us constantly where they're at. And so, when they're just venting, they're not asking, please, can you help me? What's your perspective here? Because when they are doing that, that's when I can sort of say, well, could it be in a work somewhere? Where is your level of loving self, loving all the lessons, experiences that have triggered us to empower ourselves, to heal, to forgive, because all of those emotions we have to feel to grow from, even though, grief is a very hard one to process and understand. We don't like our emotions being played with, and ironically, this is the planet for it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is very crucial for, I think, this process with me is, without going into too much detail, Joanne, I had a tough childhood, very tough teenage years, and have gone through a lot of pain and suffering, whether it's my choice or situationally, through, uh, my parents being divorced and going their separate ways. I still have, relationship with them. And then I was married and I went through a divorce. So again, not trying to make this, as I said, like about me, but mentioning what you're saying with, the emotional experience that we have in our lives. Like, I'm 34 now, and even, stuff that affected me when I was a teenager, sometimes was lingering. And I would keep thinking, I got to take responsibility of this shit, because if it's just coming and going, it's got a place to rest. But, I have the ability to, like you said, embody and experience the emotions, and whether it's like, really, as you said, trying to work through some grief or sadness, like, it's not easy. Um, I'll say this. I think I'm not comparing, male to female. I think there is a bit of stigma sometimes around men and their emotions, and being honest with themselves. And, I'll say it, like, saying like, yeah, I am sad. I'm not going to just like keep being angry or frustrated with myself, but I'm going to try and like let the sadness go, whether that's like, crying or whatever, or even anger. I had a bit of anger a few weeks ago. And I guess what I was going to say is like, the emotions that come with it, like you said, are so valid to the experience. And I think there's a spiritual quality to that too, right? Because it's like that healing and release, and then you continue to be more of your true self. Um, I was wondering if I could share a little bit more of like after what happened with Nina, because it was like a bit of like a progression.
Absolutely, I would love to hear that. And I do want to get back and circle back about the range of emotions between a male and a female. Sorry, I'm actually in my kitchen so you can hear my dishwasher. Yeah, look at me doing dishes.
No, that's okay. I can't hear anything.
Oh, cool. Okay. So I do want to explore that more because I'm getting a lot more clients recently that are men who are honest enough with themselves to realize that they are allowed to have feelings and emotions. And that was like a freedom and a liberation for them because it's almost like, oh no, well, if you've got a penis, you're not allowed to have emotions. And somehow that is
Oh, sorry.
I'm freezing up on you. Sorry.
Yeah, you just froze. We're good now.
Must be because I said the P word. So yeah, um, it's very interesting. And I mean, part of it, when I was channeling the other day about World War One and World War Two and how they were super suppressed. If you cry and get upset about the way of the world in wartime, you're not patriotic and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it just, I could see so much trauma and suppression. You can't speak your truth because it's so conditioned. And this is why I think men can seem very angry because they're so bottled up. And if they share feelings,
Yeah.
you know, then what's wrong with you? You're not a man. You can't cry. Men can't cry, you know, and it's awful. Yeah. So anyway, yes, I definitely want to
It
explore.
is, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah, for sure. I was just gonna,
yeah.
no, that's okay. I was gonna touch on one thing that you made me think of, and I'm happy to go back to like the emotions, but I'll say this, you know, one of the biggest things that I've had to do is, as cheesy as it sounds, like listen to my heart. And the more I listen to my heart and the more I acknowledge my heart and remember that I am a man, it changes me. Because for a long time, I didn't realize, recognize, or understand that I had one. And, you know, it's one thing to just like say, okay, yeah, I've got a heart, it pumps blood. But obviously, we know on a spiritual level the significance of the heart, but more so like I think, and I've been there too. I think it's easy for people, whether it's guys or females, like to become hard-hearted without knowing it, you know, or without even feeling it. And, you know, I'm pretty good with the quotes. Like one of the quotes that comes to mind is that, like, well, not quotes, but the idea of like, you know, a rock crumbles, something that's hard crumbles, but something that's soft and tender, like as Bruce Lee would say, you know, it flows like water. And I think when we have a soft or open or more tender heart, then things can flow a little bit easier. Um, but that kind of actually leads me to what I was going to say about after Nina Simone visiting me. So as I was laying there, Joanne, like Nina was there, and without channeling an audible message, it was almost as if the energy was inside of me. And much like when the Zetas or the ETs came to chat with me about love, it was almost this experiencing what it's like to be here or to just have a vessel for a moment, and then the soul or the spirit would leave, and it was me. But there was this cycle. And as the spirit of the soul would come in, it was like very quickly I would get a name and I could feel who it was. So there was like Nina Simone. And these are, it takes courage for me to say because again, it's not about me, it's not about my ego or even who I'm talking about, but these are like legendary people. It was like Kobe Bryant, Dr. Martin Luther King, uh, Miles Davis, a couple musicians. There was females too, like Lauryn Hill. Um, uh, there's somebody else I'm thinking of. Oh, maybe it was Nina Simone. But what I started to notice is that not only did I have like a slight association, for example, like Miles Davis, I was like, why? When I was in high school, I used to play trumpet. I owned a trumpet for a little bit. He was a trumpet player. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I was thinking about like Nina Simone, and you know, in her life, she had some oppression and pain, and obviously faced the segregation. I recognize I am not black, and I don't understand or live out what that's like by any means. But in my own personal experiences, I have experienced those range of emotions. Now, the other very, I might have a couple of tears here. The very fascinating thing about this is that something I've been fascinated by since understanding the soul and reincarnation is trying to uncover or discover who my past lives may have been. So as this is happening, I'm starting to wonder based on the association of like even Kobe Bryant for a second. Kobe Bryant came in and like I played basketball a little bit, but I have a pretty good jump shot and that's about it. And sometimes I play with the kids in the neighborhood. So I was like, okay, there is a slight association. And I started to wonder, these souls or these spirits that are coming through, like, are they past lives that I used to live that are coming back through me? So I started to think about this. And the more I started to feel it and the less I thought about it, there's not really much other way I could say this, Joanne. It was like I was starting to like explode and this energy was just coming outside of me. And I sat up in my bed and I started to cry. And it was like this deep sense of longing was relieved from me as if these souls and these spirits were coming through me. But outside of me, it was like my spirit guide team was just kind of around and they were watching it happen. And as you said, they were like, yes, yes, like this is good, like this is loving. And there was just like so much affirmation. And it got to the point where it was like, we're going to speak through you and we want to speak through you and like you have to share what we're going to say with people. And I'm, you know, with this being recorded, I'm like putting myself in the hot seat here now. But it was almost as if through the people or the souls that were coming, there was like this theme of like pain, oppression, and on the other side, liberation, freedom, and you know, extremely fitting for some of the stuff that the world is going through right now. So it was like, I'm not going to say like it's my calling, but it felt in that same sort of energy or regard, like, okay, like this could be a next part of your life is moving in this direction where there's
Well, I mean,
another aspect.
they sort of, you know, they all sort of have recently been on Earth. They know how challenging it is. And, you know, they still see lots of their family and friends are still in the Earth game. You know, so they're very emotionally attached and very invested, as all our collectives are, because we're all soul family and friends. I'm wondering if some of those souls were with you, encouraging and inspiring you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, because I'm not going to pry, but you know, they
No,
could.
you could go ahead with the questions if you have to.
I feel like one of them maybe was a parallel life of yours. So you coexisted in the same time, as in the linear time that we label. But you know, souls do come and support us, and if they're soul family, I feel really strongly about the big musicians who have tried to send messages and share messages, whether it's just sound or audio or a mixture of both. You know, do seem to be very I was going to say Palladium, it's not. I mean, I wanted to say Arcturian. It feels like there's a lot of Arcturians that have come down to be messengers, and those messengers will look like the musicians and the writers, and you know all this other sort of stuff. I wouldn't say it's actors because I feel like actors are reading scripts, so it is they're just playing the roles, but energetically they are performing to share the energies. So it's you could be reading a script, but your energy is sharing with the world. Someone I remember having a conversation with this guy Lee. I can't remember if it's his first name or is it. He created a whole lot of comics characters.
Oh, I can't think of his name, but yeah, he's done like the Marvel comics.
But I wonder, is Spike Lee? No, is that?
No, hold on, I'll Google it quickly. I know who you're talking about.
So anyway, he you know, he was channeling off-planet different lifetimes and beings and a whole lot of stuff. And you know,
Oh, sorry, is it Stanley?
yes, Stan Lee, he's so cute. Yeah, I could feel the S. Anyway, yeah, his soul's fantastic. You should explore him because he's marvelous. And he was saying that he wanted to be seen in his own movies because that's important for his energy frequency. He doesn't even need to be saying anything. Just looking his cute self is enough for those people to be activated and register. That is something, that is someone that I can grow from, and yeah, it was so purposeful. But what I feel like you're saying, and I agree with you, is that these souls, those lifetime experiences that they had, super significant, purposeful, lots of lessons, lots of purposes, and they want to share it with the channelers. They want to share it with everyone. They want to share their own summary perspectives of life's lessons, not because we have all the time to have all the different ranges. Especially if you're a volunteer, you don't have all of the imprint lives or the physical lifetimes to have actually mastered and experienced and explored everything. That's why these lifetimes are incredibly full on right now. We're packed in with everything.
Yeah, that totally makes sense too. And I agree with what you were saying earlier about like not so much actors and more like musicians or like artists, because that's what I was noticing and feeling too. It was just this very like a lot of artists who kind of, I don't want to say like yeah, a lot of artists who just had like creative energy and like have a lot more to say, as you mentioned, you know, that is coming out, and that was like what it felt like, was like they each had like a little bit of like a snippet with the experience that was along maybe the same theme or feel, but slightly different, you know, interpretations or different like, yeah,
So, I mean,
wavelengths.
of course, there's manufactured pop artists and things like that who aren't, you know, aren't the creators of the words. So there is some musicians that are just looking the part, where it's someone else's message that's been sung or shared or auto-tuned
Yeah.
out into it. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's always really interesting to explore it. And you know, does it really matter what collective they come from? You know, the information, the frequency, the vibrations of a live music versus dead music, which is actually to aggravate us. And we think, oh gosh, that's awful, we're being aggravated by music. Well, part of our roles and responsibilities is to be able to hear that sort of stuff and vibrate higher and notice, okay, yeah, that music doesn't work for me anymore. I used to be oblivious to it, but now I can feel that energy and it's not for me. And that's fine, because I've grown, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and exactly what you're saying is true too, is that like as the experience continues to happen, and I you know, like try to stay open to who or however is contacting me, like just um yeah, yeah.
So, have you got a list of all the sort of people that you wanted to explore? Because you're right, they love to come in and feel the bodies again, even though
Yeah,
they find it very dense and challenging. They actually can share their lessons, and when they can summarize it, it's like a life review. I had what I thought was a dream about some time in my life with two people, and but I was actually myself now, what I perceived myself as now, and I was able to express what was going on and how that made me feel with all of their behaviors and reactions and treatment of me. And the thing is that I woke up from that dream thinking, oh, that was really strange. Oh gosh, I really was speaking my truth and blah, 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 blah. And I wasn't attacking them or I wasn't hurt. It was like, and so from this perspective, this is how it made me feel, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I saw them in a very different, like almost a broken state where I never saw their vulnerabilities. When we were going through the dance, the tango, entanglement of our life contracts together. And then I realized through doing sessions that person's actually departed, and I actually was witnessing a part of her life review. And that's very interesting, because, you know, very purposeful to realize that, you know, when we have our life review, we're not necessarily alone. We could actually be with those souls who were there playing the roles to help each other. And, you know, it was all very neutral in emotions. It wasn't like, you bloody bitch, whatever, whatever, whatever. It was just, and so that triggered this and blah, 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 blah. It was a great conversation from my perspective, but I saw her very horrified for her her choices because she was seeing that the world was trying to get her versus seeing the inner pain that was within her that was reflecting the world in a twisted way. But it was, yeah, it was really interesting. So
Yeah, that would be interesting. I feel like it would be a lot to, not in a bad way, like a bit to process, right? To kind of like wrap your head or your heart around. And it's interesting, like not interesting. The word that I was thinking about when I was like sharing my experience was like it's almost like soul soothing in a way. I think, once now that I've again like this is all very new for me, but I think acceptance, I guess, is maybe something that I'm trying to remind myself is like just accept it, just go with it. Like earlier you mentioned, like just keep leaning into the energy and try and trust it. It's not always easy. Even this morning I was doing a bit of cleaning at my place, and there I was drawn to like sit and meditate and channeled somebody new and came out with a message. And you asked me earlier if I have like a list. So between what happened last night before I went to bed and these souls kind of cycling through me, I was just jotting it down on my phone who I felt like had visited. And then as I was compiling that list, it was almost like exponential. So I'd write like three names and then I would get like one or two more. And I'd say like 90% of them, aside from, who would be my guides. I mean, they're artists in their own right, but that was like a lot of who it was. It was like, you know, uh, yeah, black musicians or black artists or athletes. Not to say they're all black. There was, one member of the Beastie Boys. There was who else? A couple people, but what I actually also started to think of too is when you mentioned like the past lives thing, was that um, maybe in some of my past lives, I was not in white skin, and coming to Earth now has been a lot to process, and maybe my soul has taken a long time to discover and uncover that.
mm,
And by saying that, I'm, kind of, I don't want to say putting myself in the firing line, but again, I acknowledge that there is another world out there. There's the dream world, the spiritual world, other dimensions that people want to call it. And the more that I explore and understand and believe in that, I, going back to what you said, have certainty that yes, I have a body and I'm a soul and a heart and organs and a life, but there's a much greater, existence to who we are. And I think that's like one of the beautiful aspects of life is like, the process. Like there's not really a finish line. I think is one of the things I've come to realize. Not that I'm working towards any finish line, but this has really kind of changed the game for me in that perspective too, in terms of like, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of words I could put in there, but
I'm noticing that when I can't formulate my exact emotion or exact, I don't want to slow down, expand upon it with words to get the exact feeling, to label the feeling of the range of senses I'm getting. I am noticing I just easily swear instead of saying and be articulate with what's going on, the trigger, the emotions, and explain it in detail. I just go, ugh, if that, to if that. And my potty mouth is shocking, but I
hey,
realize
I just for the record, Joanne, like I honestly, I'll put one out there, like I don't fucking mind. Like you know what I mean? I'm still human, and I, I come across this way, but like I said, I was a cook and a chef, and like anything and everything comes out. You know what I mean? I have no problem with anybody swearing, and I also understand that like I think there's a difference between like being sworn at or swearing to somebody or something as opposed to like
yeah.
this is a great fucking day. Like say you could. It's funny too. Like I'll be honest. There's times where like when I you know started going to church and was believing Christianity and came out of that. And that was something I contemplated for a long time. I was like, it's swearing a sin, is it not a sin? This, that, and the other. And I swear, I sat with Jesus one time and I was like, look, man, like what's the deal? Tell me what's going on. And that was like almost the sense that I got is like, Jesus is like, you know what? Like, if you're doing something for the right reason, like only you know. You know what I mean? Or like, if you have bad intentions, like, and I'm not saying that's you. I think you have very, very good intentions, Joanne, obviously, but I'm not trying to pick apart what you're saying. I'm just trying to relate. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah. But you know, like and I think people know when we can say love and light to you.
yeah,
Which is like, I mean, you ain't feeling that love and light. Let's be honest. You know, like sometimes those words don't have the integrity and the intentions and the meaning of what they're saying. You know, their spiritual ego, their spiritual cloak is got the full language of all their, all of their justifications of how advanced, special they are, but yet behind the scenes at the actual surface of how they respond and how they live their lives, there is not a spiritual perspective to it very often. So, we can all pretend to be so lightened with our spiritual words, but when people are saying that stuff, it's all very surface and very limited in perspectives and concepts, they're going to expose themselves. People expose themselves with their integrity and intentions when they're just love and lighting you, magic,
yeah,
fairy dust. That's all cute and all, but you can feel if there is actually integrity and intention and true meaning behind it, because we can all fake saying I love you, but when you actually mean it and it's your truth and it's got the energy and the words are on, this is where a lot of people get confused about, like, well, careful because words are spells. It's like, but if that's the case, saying I love the whole world and I love all of humanity, then wouldn't I be casting a spell? I love all of humanity to love itself and empower itself to have epiphanies, to grow, and blah, 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 blah. It just doesn't work like that. We have these old school assumptions, and it may sound legitimate and, oh yeah, that's it. The words are the evil parts. It's the emotions and the intentions and the energy that could be the evil parts. So it's so fascinating what we do to sort of distract ourselves and try to put things into boxes and label them and understand them and comprehend them. The words are just the translations of the senses of how we feel. And within the how we feel, we could label and identify the emotions. When we understand what's really within us, to be able to get it out so we can hear it, to understand it from our thinking, because that's how we translate it, right? And because we are supposed to be balanced. How do you get balanced? You share your thoughts through words, you share your feelings through words, and then you get to mix them and mingle them in to be able to have this awesome balance, in my understanding of how we work.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree, because I think, like, there was a couple words that came to mind, like you said, honesty and vulnerability too, like being vulnerable with ourselves in our own time, in our own private way, whether it's, like you said, talking, or writing or reading, or like, I don't know if this makes sense to you, but almost like exposing ourselves to our own emotions in a way and saying like, okay, like, I know I'm angry right now. I'm not going to be angry forever. Or even, okay, I know I'm angry right now. I don't know how long it's going to last, but like, I don't want to be that way, or I don't want to be. Even today, actually, I was going for a walk and I was like high energy. I had a good chat with a buddy, and then was walking and I was feeling very much like in my higher self, and it was good. And then all of a sudden I jumped in and I said something sharp to somebody, and right away it was like ego, 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 ego. And it was just like, okay, I was feeling really good. And like you said earlier, that was one of those moments where, like, said what I, needed or wanted to say, but realized, holy shit, that doesn't make me feel good. But I had to,
You have to, I just stop you there and pause you.
yeah,
Because while we don't like to be ego and we don't like to trigger people, what if your teams are like, be ego to trigger that person because they need to sort of stop and think and feel? And this is what us people who don't want to hurt people and we don't want to trigger people, you have to accept it was purposeful and significant. You don't go out there strutting your stuff thinking, I'm gonna fucking ruin your whole days. with my ego. Like, you don't have that agenda. And so again, it's your intention and integrity, but the words we use often aren't really for us.
Yeah.
Sometimes those words that we use are to help and be of service to others. If they needed to be triggered, fantastic opportunity for growth. You're welcome.
I'm actually so glad you said that, because my initial thought was like, and feeling was what I shared with you, 10 or 15 minutes down the road, I was like looking up, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe whatever I said, the universe meant for him too, So as I walked away, there was kind of like that, letting go and like accepting that, all right. I even sort of apologized to the guy after, and I was like, you know what, like, I'm sorry, like that wasn't me. And then it was kind of like this walk of shame. And then I just, let the shame go. And I'm like, well, he's human, I'm human, like, so.
This is the hardest thing when we sort of get pushed to say things and hold people accountable. Those people who are not wanting to be accountable for their own feelings, their own thoughts, their own emotions, their own inner work, all that sort of stuff. Again, the universe is providing them lessons and messages constantly. And if they're not picking up all of the internal signs, their physical breakdowns of their bodies, a whole lot of things that they should be noticing, then, we will then accidentally get pushed to have a confrontation with them. And it's quite uncomfortable. And this is why lots of people don't want to see other people. They don't want to interact with other people, and because they don't like that feeling of being the role of triggering someone to grow. And, especially when we're like, oh, everyone's on their own journey, you do you, love and light, free will and all. We have to be able to connect with each other. It's important. And so many people are like, I'm not fucking dealing with humans or public because they're just so dense and yuck. And, you can bring that shit home with you and it's just disgusting and I feel gross, blah, 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 blah. This is why we need to know how to ground ourselves in all honesty. Spiritual people know the word grounding, but do you apply it and do you actually do it? There's a huge difference between knowing a word and a concept and applying and actually taking it seriously and doing it. Big difference. Big difference.
Yes. Yeah. That's another good sort of hitting the nail on the head too, is like, they say, kind of, pardon the pun, like, practice what you preach. Neither of us are preaching, to each other. We're speaking generally, but like, yeah, that like the application side of like, getting a message from one of my guides, or like you were saying, talking to somebody else, like, okay, I can walk away and think about what I have to do or know what I have to do. That's 50% of making it happen. The other half is doing it, right? Or the other third, or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, is like living it out. Yeah.
Totally. People can listen, half listen to the messages and the channeling and the sessions, right? And I kept wondering, why do you guys just keep repeating yourselves? I've heard it. I've heard what you've said. I'm applying it the best that I can to every time I find myself getting stuck or like, oh, don't know where to go from here, I have to then think, what's the lesson here? What's the purpose? Blah, blah, blah. And I'd keep like doing some channeling. They would push. It's a pressure that I feel where they're just like almost with their hands on their hips, tapping their knees, like, well, are we going to do this? And I'm like, oh, there's something you want me to do. Oh, that's right. Be the vehicle again. Okay, cool. And so they come in and then it feels like sometimes they're telling us off because, you're not loving yourselves. You're not empowering others. You're not empowering yourself. Face your fears, grow from them, stop being cowards to the pain that you have already experienced. You've already experienced that. Now learn the lessons from it. Yes, of course, it was to empower you. So see it from that perspective and grow, and they're just like yelling out. And I just think, God, you guys have been saying this for a long time. Like, we get it. And then they say, no, people are not applying it. They're not getting it. They're not realizing this is for you. And if we've been triggered and someone's accusing us of, you don't love yourself, we're like, oh, how dare you? And then we're like, right, okay, let's just do an honest check with ourselves. Do I love myself? Where is room for growth and improvement? What are they seeing that could be actually, a truth here? And we're always afraid that we're not doing things right or whatever. So this is when we can be honest with ourselves. Stop lying to ourselves, actually be accountable for ourselves and go, okay, wait, I've been accused of this. this is triggering me, but is it true? Is it true? And then, you know, we can instantly be like, in your opinion, love and light, I pray for you, you know, and dismiss it. But actually, we've got to look into it. Okay, do I honestly love myself? What could I be doing that may not look like loving myself? And is this person a vehicle of my own teams coming and telling me, because I'm dismissing everything else they're sharing with me? So then someone actually has to be in my face to do that. And, you know, it takes some confidence to actually look at our behaviors, look at our shit and go, what did I look like when I didn't love myself? When was that? How did I grow from that? How did I power myself through it? And then people will do sessions with me and be like, yeah, I listen to your sessions and I love myself and I have my problems. I'm trying to empower myself, blah, 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 blah. And the subconscious is like, they ain't doing that. And it's like, oh, okay, tell me more, subconscious. Like, what do you mean? And then they say they're afraid of loving themselves in all honesty, because then they think if they love themselves, they're going to be those assholes who are like, I'm everything, I'm spiritual, blah, 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 blah. And they're afraid that if they love themselves, ego will come in. And that's a really scary thing, maybe because they've died from having ego in another lifetime. You know, so they're really afraid. And also when we see other people who've got big ego, you know, like, it's not cute. It's actually quite, you know, it's interesting, but you can see that their ego brings them to huge limitations, lack of perspectives, and a whole lot of stuff. And that's their journey. And some people love people with big egos because it kind of makes them feel entertained.
I think something that's true too is like going from, like you were saying, kind of breaking the mindset of like self-love, right? Because I think a lot of the way that the world has operated, or society has, I'm not saying it's true for everybody, but the value that we put on things is different, right? You know, some people really can be spiritual, but also can really be attached to their physical things. I have that problem. I got stuff that I would not love to lose, but at a certain point, it's like, okay, move on. It's going to be okay. There's other things to be bought or whatever. But like the value on the experiences that we have is not something like tangible. You know, like it's all in here. We can draw, paint, write, or create or whatever to get that stuff out. But like as you were saying, the process of actually like taking stuff that's going on outside, whether it's like a message from a spirit guide or like working with a client, to then what are the word, like embodying it, like to see somebody embody it and actually at least try to, like, you know, take the advice you give them. Or another thing that comes up for me too is like the inner child, you know, like let the inner child in me speak a little bit and treat things playfully, because you know, there's many things that I've tried in my life that I've failed at, but there's always something to be learned from the failure. It just depends, you know, how you want to look at it, or take things apart. But I think that's a big part of it too, is like you were saying, like calling ourselves out on our own bullshit, even if someone from the outside is like, it can be easy to just push that away and like, all right, I'm just going to be in my own bubble. Well, I still have to deal with this stuff. And sometimes when I don't, it just does not make things easier.
I have heard people say that they have failed at certain things. Like, I failed at that career, I failed at the marriage, I failed at that whatever. And, you know, so they own the feeling of failure, being a failure. Oh, I can't say it because it's not real. We're not failures. We're not failures. Oh, I can't even say it. That's weird.
We're not, I won't say it. We shouldn't say
it. Because that is a limited perspective of the experience. Some people love the idea of being a practitioner, for example, but then they just don't get the clients. And there is lots of things that just seem to kind of, the universe isn't helping me here. I was supposed to be protected and adored, and you know, the universe was supposed to give me what I wanted. And when we ask in the session and they channel, they say this wasn't for them. You know, and there's big careers where people think, I want to be in this location, or I want this holiday, or I want that car, or I wanted that relationship. And the subconscious is like, girl, you did not, like you did. But let me tell you a story about the actual reality. If you had married him, or whatever would have moved to that location, or like, we just can't see the bigger perspective and purposes of those relationships that were to only teach us certain things for us to then grow. And like, I love unpacking and learning the bigger perspectives of actually those things we think we've failed at, because often we were protected and guided, not for you, and
Yeah.
so I'm using my free will to be an XYZ career person. And I thought that was going to be my everything. And this is what's really concerned. I have quite a lot of clients who are actually doctors who have stepped away from the profession, and they're like, I thought this was it. I thought it was everything I was going to help the world with and heal the world with. And they've got years of training, and now they have realized what that industry is. And now they feel like, well, what am I supposed to be? And there is
Wow, that's got to be a little disheartening. Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, well, disheartening from a 3D perspective of, oh well, I mean, yeah, there's so much to be said about that. And
yeah.
it's with every industry. I feel like people are desperate to get out of their careers for one reason or another, and they've just got this urgency to change. And they may feel like the job's not spiritually uplifting them, or it's not, as they're worried that they're wasting their time. They get this urgency of, we're got to get going. And I can feel when we are getting closer to certain things, I can feel that pressure, and then it pops because people didn't step up and support others, and share truths, and share love, and share unconditional love, and respect everyone's. There's resentment, bitterness, a whole lot of destructive behaviors and density, still from even light workers who are like, why are you still sleeping? Why are you still wearing 5 masks? We get angry. It's
yeah,
but I can feel the collectors pushing, getting really, really, really excited. And then it's like, nope, not this time. And they just feel so frustrated because, and it's weird when you start feeling into the emotions of feeling frustrated and impatient. And when we talk to subconsciouses, they're saying, we want to go home. We're so done with this. This is taking the piss. This is, so slow. And they are still advanced beings who can see everything, but this is their life contract to be guides to us, and they're wanting to move. They're wanting to do their own other things. They want to go back to home planets. They want to do a lot of other stuff, and they are almost trapped here until we shift. That's an interesting thing. I'm looking forward for you to explore.
yeah. I was just about to say that's interesting. I've never thought about that perspective, but that totally makes sense. I was just going to go back because, like I mentioned, like the failure aspect, and you mentioned like limiting beliefs and how that so much can sink into our subconscious. And those are two words definitely that I wouldn't say like they're bookends on my life or whatever. Human beings, we all have our, quote unquote failures or successes, but like only I can define those things for me, right? And it's obviously, deep down inside the language, although I said failure, I always say like it's a win or a learn. It's not a win or a loss. There's always something to be taken away, even if you didn't get what you wanted. And that's another reminder that I've had to create for myself is there doesn't really need to be expectations for anything outside of me. All I need to do is like expect stuff from myself. And even if I don't, that's okay. Like if I don't, live up to my own expectations, or I don't, whatever.
We do take this world quite seriously because we take our finances seriously, we take our careers seriously, we take our our social status seriously. Lots of people take things really darn seriously, and and when we don't realize what our priorities are, you know, we really have to make sure that everything we do comes from love, and that every interaction that we have with others, even those with masks, look at me being judgmental, I still have to know that they need love more than the people not wearing masks, you know, beyond more. So I have to have compassion with them, and I do have compassion for them, even though honestly, when I see someone driving with by themselves with a mask on, I just think love and light to you. And that whole, I really need to mean it, because
You could always just point and be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and then just put one over your whole face. No, I'm just kidding.
it's like I'm safe and protected. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
safe from, I mean, sometimes we want to call them things. We want to call them a whole lot of names, idiots, and you know, and just you know, a whole, it's really, it's quite mind-blowing to get to a point where you can see the narrative and you see them complying, and it's just you know, really, they're showing us that they don't have confidence in their own thinking, they don't have confidence in their own self, they're not confident in actually owning their own truth. And I know people are like, well, it is their truth, they're, you know, they're protected, they think they're protected, but it's like, in some of those cases their children aren't wearing masks. So if this is to protect them, are you just like, oh, fuck the kids, I don't care what happens to them, I'm worried about myself? Like, you know,
Yeah.
We're pushed into these social circles where there still has to be remembering our purpose, our role, to love all and to be that beacon of love, and really have that profound acceptance of where they're at. And this is why people are like, I don't want to be where they're at, they're stupid and dense and dumb. You know, we literally have to be there, and you know, just to love and support them, and not ostracize them. Because if something did happen to them and they start having reactions, or they start losing people, they're not going to come running to us, because they know we may, or they fear we may be like, oh, death, they just had death, oh, that's just a mild reaction, isn't it? That's just one of those, like, no, that's just, oh, that's not common. You know,
I agree though. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, it's not easy to kind of, you know, like you said, like, not pass judgment, but deep down inside, we're like, oh, what a moron, like, still believing that stuff. But that can also even like just come to bite me back. You know what I mean? Or like
totally, we become part of the problem. We've definitely become part of the problem, because instead of us honestly sending love and light and respect, and like, you know, feel safe. If you're wearing a mask because you're afraid, feel safe, feel comfortable with that mask, feel protected, feel it all, you know, and then and live with that confidence. Live with that confidence of being safe, because that has to uplift you. Instead, we're like judging them, we're adding density to them. They are feeling even more afraid, because they're sensing someone could be judging them, but they don't know that they can feel other people's feelings. So then they're like, oh, it must be the virus. The virus must be closer to me.
yeah.
We're at a worry of worries, world of worries, and we have to be more responsible for our own behaviors and actions. And even though it's funny to like mock them now ish, in true honesty, when we do see those people, and I know I need to step up too, is to just send them love and confidence that they're safe and protected always.
Yeah, and I hope you don't feel like by any means, Joanne, I'm like, you know, saying like we're calling people out like that. I think we could agree, like we're sharing the same perspective, you know, and
I'm sure I've got a parallel life out there who has got 15 masks, showers with those masks, has the hand sanitizer as, you know, moisturizer, and lives its best in fear life. I'm pretty sure that I've got a parallel life that is in deep terror. And, you know, so what I'm really projecting out to those people that I physically see, you know, it's definitely going to come back to me, my parallel lives, all that sort of stuff, the energy. And while we can still forgive ourselves, I know if we talk to Jesus and be like, so am I going to hell again? Can I create my own hell and imprison myself because I did roll my eyes so hard I nearly gave myself a stroke when there was people with masks on in the car? And Jesus will say, we're supposed to love even the lepers.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is like I can totally 100% relate. Like I have those moments too, because I, like I will like have my silent judgments, and it often is like
But
then something.
are those silent judgments honestly silent? What you may not hear the sound, but you can read me.
Well, and that's and that's the thing too, is that like when we're around genuine people, you can feel it, you can see it, you can know it. Like there's more of like a certainty, right? Like we can all see through, like you said earlier, we can see through that, like you just said, like the words that we use to describe each other, whatever. And like that's a big part of why I'm in the position I am now, is because I believe in and agree with and see 1,000% of what you're saying. And I'm almost in tears because it's like, yeah, somebody else gets it. I just haven't had the courage to say it, and I'm being like 1,000% honest when I say this, Joanne. Like I have to commend you on your bravery, because not a lot of people like yourself are going to be real and going to be honest, not only with yourself, but with what you're saying and what you believe in and what you feel. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's like you're just shining your light even more. And if people don't like or understand or hear or accept or believe in what you have to say, that's not your problem, that's their problem, right? And
well, I mean, we can be really good at distracting ourselves from our own behaviors and our own
yes,
reactions and our own thoughts. And we can be really proud of ourselves because, we know about the shift, and we can be really proud of ourselves because we know about the crimes against humanity and we're awoken, but yet we can still be arrogant, ignorant to our less than idealistic best versions of self with it. And I know from, sessions recently where clients have said, how can I help? How can I be more of service? And, some people want to help people by correcting them or telling them, no, 5D isn't here, you muppet, blah, 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 instead of giving them the truth, empower them to find their own truth. And that is really beautiful, lovely. Like, I believe in you so much. I know you're going to get that answer. And I know not only are you going to get the answer, you're going to get it from within, which is like the profound answers to everything. And that is undeniable. But then, of course, there's people that do channel the information through sessions and want to deny the whole thing, because applying it is the hard part. That's the next step, is applying it.
Yeah, it's almost like in a way, kind of like having like a toolbox outside of you, and like, okay, what am I gonna use or incorporate or like integrate, today or whenever, that like inner work takes place, for sure.
Yeah, it's it's a fun journey, but we mustn't beat ourselves up for the times that we have judged others, because when we are judging, we just don't understand what's going on for them. And when people aren't speaking up and stepping up to their truth and empowering themselves to remember how powerful they are and how special they are, we can see it. I can see amazing potential in everyone, where they're supposed to be and who they're supposed to be and all this sort of stuff. And so I see that, and I often want to treat those people as they are in their soul essence of amazingness and with their life contracts and all this sort of stuff. But when they haven't actually truly stepped into their true power here, it can be really hard to see really big beings still playing 3D. And and often we want to treat them and have assumptions that they're already at that full empowerment of self, because we can see their true light, empowerment, and they're still limiting themselves. And we can't understand why you're still limiting yourselves. And we may not see that hurt from other lifetimes that made them really scared. They don't want to share true truth. They don't want to be seen as that big light. So when we can see others with the big light, they're like, don't look at me. That's what got me killed last time. Piss off. No, I'm scared of the virus. Like they will try to resist being recognized by their soul family, freak out with that. Oh shit, it deeply resonates with me. Now I'm scared. What am I supposed to do next? Does that mean I'm an alien?
Yeah, no, and I agree with and like understand what you're saying too. And it actually even made me think about myself, because when you mentioned like the 3D thing, even though, we're having a conversation, I think on a bit of a more elevated level, you could say, like there's times where I feel like I go back and forth between 3D and 4D, and I catch myself. I'm like, oh yeah, like, give my head a shake, give my heart a shake, and like, don't, worry about like, the stuff that's going on inside, and maybe just step outside of myself, which isn't always the easiest thing to realize. But like, yeah, getting caught almost in that, like, the mindset or the.
It reminds me of someone that I know who has done heaps of inner work and has got to a higher mindset perspective, super balanced, super neutral, not phased. Now his team was saying, come down, help those people in the 3D to overcome and master and grow it. It's basically like, hang on, my bread maker has just finished making my keto bread.
Oh.
Oh, it's so hard to be a housewife. Sorry, anyway, sorry for the noise. He was supposed to come down and be at a 3D level to remind himself of the range of emotions and to verbally share with others how he stepped up and out of that again. But it's like he just scraped himself out there. He hasn't sort of had a breath and gone, cool, okay, I have this complete neutral balance and harmony. And it's like he just got there, and they're like, great, and now go back and then bring heaps of other people with you. And his biggest fear was, well, if I go back, I may not be able to get back again. I'm scared. I might get stuck in the 3D. And what he's scared about is the leadership role and also ego. I don't want to be a leader. If people start seeing me as a leader, there's so much responsibility. And what if I am then noticed and recognized as a leader, and then I become, a spiritual wanker and, love and lie to everyone with, limited perspectives and blah, 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 blah. He's very afraid to go back there. And I think he already overcame that. But it's almost like, if you have a fear and you face your fears and you grow and learn, I just don't think it's possible to then go back and have, I don't know if you can unlearn. So I think if you actually truly do learn the full journey, I don't think you could then just, fall from grace and become a super wanker. I mean, it's a choice. Life contracts could change, all that sort of stuff. So who knows? But it's, it's really interesting. And so anyway, we have to be having some 3D moments to be able to understand where everyone else is at. Because I know for myself, when I'm in complete balance and neutral, and I don't mind, those people who have been vaccinated, I trust everyone's doing the best they can to cope. And then I will have someone be like, oh my God, those sleepy people today really, they're really reactive, and they're really under their skin, and they're so angry. And I just kind of think, you're judging, and that looks really yucky. And then I sort of, and I kind of, it's like, you need to release that. What a grand awakening is for and why, and empower yourself through it, find your balance and neutral again. And so it's kind of like, I feel like it's almost hypocritical, because sometimes I do feel that density and do react, and then other times I'm watching other people react and think, oh, that's too hard for you. Why are you bothering to do that? And so there is definitely the roller coaster rides. But if we were too high frequency vibrational in our mindsets and perspectives and super zen, nothing bothers us, we're just here to be love and light, then that is all great. But our collectives are saying, now share that with others, mingle and bring and uplift others with you. And they're like, no, not touching that at all. That's disgusting. And so it's really hard for our collectives who see people who have got great neutrality, great balance. If you honestly did have great balance and neutrality, and you knew the honest state of this planet, honest state of humanity, and you knew what was happening next, you would be coming back down, hustling, inspiring, loving, encouraging, and empowering people. And you wouldn't be like sitting there in your higher perspective, looking down, going, are we fucking here yet? I want to shift. And then those people get very frustrated and very impatient. And if you have got impatience still, there's inner work for you to explore and unpack.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So much of like what you just said is like, yeah, it was like you just totally verbalized like what I was thinking. And something else I thought about too is like,
it's called a rant. They're quite helpful.
no, it's good.
You know, it's a hobby.
What's that?
It's a hobby.
No, you're good. I think I lost my own train of thought because I was just thinking about like we were talking earlier about like like the 3D to the 4D and the density of how we can get caught up in our own density and just like it's almost like this kind of vision that I'm getting is almost like it's almost like I catch myself sometimes trying to walk or trying to run, and then I'm like, okay, I got to take the sand out of my boots that are there, and like go back and unpack it or deal with it. And I'm not sure when you're referencing your friend if you're talking about me or whatever. It sounded very.
No, I promise. He is a real person. I can show you him.
No, that's okay. But it was funny because similarly, I'm at the same point where I have spent a lot of time with myself, and now I'm kind of wondering through the way that the channeling thing has opened up. Okay, that's a skill and an aspect of my life. I actually shared it with a friend this morning, and it or yesterday, it kind of like blew his mind, but he is on the same level of perspective that you and I have. And that was so much of what I was realizing is like it's one thing for me to internalize or have these experiences, but like life is meant to be shared, you know what I mean? And as you said, enjoyed and embraced. And like frig, if obviously I have like my soul contract, which I'm still figuring out, but I think
it's like
if some way I could take what I know and feel and think now and go back and was me before, like
this is what they're wanting me to share, and this may trigger some people because they know I am talking about them. But when you hear these sessions and when you resonate with this information and you're on your journey of applying it, you want to grow more than your other spiritual friends. And so you want to be able to apply this to then be able to share your wisdom from the sessions as if it's your own teaching stuff. And this is why I ask, why are people not sharing the sessions or the information? And they're saying because they want to own it. They don't want their friends to hear the sessions raw, to hear the information as it's been shared in sessions. They are learning how to get this information and retell it and explain it as if it's their own epiphanies or channeling or wisdom or whatever. And so some people are not wanting to honestly share the links of the sessions because they don't want to be exposed of their source of information, which is our source of the information, which is our collectives. And, so I did not expect that to be, I just thought people were like, oh, I don't want to share this with my friends, they may judge me. But it's actually, there is this other aspect. People are not wanting to share because they actually don't want their friends to grow because they want to be more spiritual in love and light.
Yeah, I could see that too. And I feel like that's a little bit of me 50-50 too, if I'm being completely honest. And it's like having a lot of friends that might be curious in some of the things that, I talk about or experience, but then, translating an experience or sharing something, not that it has to be as meaningful to somebody else, but like trying to, like be vulnerable and overcome that fear of judgment or how it's going to be received it can be like counterproductive or counterintuitive. And I think from my experience, like most times when I, whether it's like sharing an experience with someone or even, the way that you and I started chatting was totally foreign, like going into a Facebook group after having first contact and not really, I can't say not knowing what I was getting into, but just like blindly throwing an arrow at a board in a certain way. It's kind of, yeah, it takes some self-courage, but also I think knowing that there are supports out there, there are other people who are experienced
Some
is,
people feel like they're kicking and screaming themselves back onto Facebook to find some groups, and they don't know why, and they think, oh God, this is awful. And then they have this realization, oh shit, there's actually spiritual people on Facebook still. Oh, that's amazing. And oh, that's actually is real information. And there are safe groups, and there is not people that are like, you can't prove ETs, blah, 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 blah. There's all those naysayers can, find their own fantastic naysay groups and celebrate their best lives. There is actually real Facebook groups that actually are sharing their truth, their experiences, because when we think, oh, I'm obviously having a breakdown and I'm obviously not normal and I'm obviously crazy, we start finding these labels to disempower ourselves quickly and immediately. Maybe others have said that to us, or maybe our worst fear is I'm just psychotic, or something. Thank goodness the experience of channeling is doesn't make you feel like you're crazy. It actually helps me grow. I think when other people are sharing other people's channeling, it is good, because it's like, oh, I found that interesting. We're not like, that's my truth, that's my information, blah, blah. We don't have any ownership of someone else's material and content. And it's just like, no, interesting woman today. You're
yeah,
not.
but
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and it's kind of sharing other perspectives that we don't have ownership of. But it's interesting because I don't feel like I have ownership of the information that I share, but it's interesting because some people feel like they own that information. And so how they want to hold it back from their friends and be able to, write snippets from the sessions as if it's their own. We're all one, we're all taking from each other's energy and, and all that sort of stuff. And this is why I share the information. I don't really think it is, I do question people's integrity when I see them sharing my written work and my written words and then putting their own names on the bottom of it. I think, oh, that's an interesting choice.
Really, that happens? Oh wow, that's brave in the worst of ways. Like, that's not cool.
But so what they do, and it seems like, so people create their new Facebook accounts and they grab a whole lot of other people's information and make it as if it's their own. So they will put, by themselves, and then they add their own little special unicorn princess, priestess names on the bottom of them. And then, love and light and namaste to you. So then people are like, wow, they're really, this information sort of resonates, and the spamming everyone. So if you ever get like a Facebook like I have more Facebook requests friends than I actually have on Facebook friends, because I don't collect Facebook friends. I'm too busy with the two private, well, I have quite a few groups that I'm admin for, and I just focus on those and I don't share publicly. Anyway, so what I have found is that people will create Facebook pages, grab a whole lot of content and make it look like they're super spiritual, and then try to get donations or something, and try and sell a course or something. And it's all about the money. And being an admin for the Pleiadian Turing Group, really get to see what people are all about. So they will post something that sounds really spiritual, and then they will message like, hey, I feel your energy, and I think I can, if you give me some money, I think I can make a spell and, get your loved one back, or blah, 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 blah. It's a really yucky feeling about Facebook, where people are just wanting your money. They're not even wanting to try and sell you integrity and power, of honest integrity and of honest power. They're wanting to be leaders, and they want followers who pay them to have their lifestyles that they want. Because, how can you really truly test what spirituality is? Because, it's all about belief systems, and they don't actually understand that our collectives are like, let us fact check that for you.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. About 5 minutes before you and I got on this call on Instagram, I had somebody message me exactly what you were saying, and it's not the first time. And at this point, I should probably have like a generic message that I just copy and paste as a reply because it's always the same thing. It's exactly what you were saying. Hey,
Yeah.
I love your page. You have good energy, you have good light and love. And I think that's funny. I actually just deleted my whole account. There's nothing even on there. It's just my name, and I have a few other linked accounts, but there's no photos. And then they'll
Or
say,
it's like,
sorry?
I can imagine what you're going to say is like, I think you have got a really great energy for manifestation, and I want to be able to help you with my cryptocurrency pyramid scheme because I think you want lots of money because you deserve it because you work really hard and the universe wants to provide for you. So if you just give me a small amount of money now, that will grow and be, you will be, just choose your mansion now because, you just won't be able to have time to spend all your money when you get it.
Yeah, and I get those definitely, and it's almost like there's a few different yeah, there's a few different types. I've had a few people that seem to be like practitioners from I think it's called Ifa or Orisha culture, and they will, send me a message saying, "Can you buy these supplies and send me money, and then I'll do a ceremony for you." And I just think, okay, it's nice that you're coming to me, and I appreciate the offer, but I don't understand if you're going to offer and ask at the same time. To me, I just think that, without splitting hairs, it can kind of be one or the other. I'll put myself in the shoes where I had went on Facebook and said, "Hey, I had so and so contact me. Can anybody help?" And you kindly responded and say, "Hey," and initially, I had thought maybe there would be a cost for guidance and going through the chat group. And, naturally we've developed a bit of a rapport, but I've had other people too that are just like, I'm not comparing by any means. You can sense the genuine connection or the energy. You can sense that there's a purpose beyond the initial, like, you know,
Yeah.
intent sometimes. And I've even had people that will, like, be very persistent, and I'll respond and say, I appreciate what you're offering, but it's just hard for me to, like, I've sworn at people online too. I'm like, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, why are you coming to me with this sort of masqueraded offer? And it breaks down to the point where I'm like, okay, I kind of trust you. And I almost sent money to somebody, and they just kept going on. Are you sending it? Are you sending it? It wasn't a lot. I think it would have been
Sure.
$20 or $30, but it's,
Yeah.
for me, it's the principle too, right? I'm not going to give into something that I don't
Yeah. And when it's
believe or
not
feel
that much
in.
money, when it's kind of like, okay, well, that's, I've got that. You sort of think you already sort of have that, well, if I lose it and it's just a scam, it's not that much, but it's their persistence. So what I've been seeing a big trend of is people who are in the group who just add me as a friend. And I'm like, well, you've never engaged in any of my posts or comments, and I've never actually seen you actually post in the group itself, let alone do any comments to others. And I just sort of think, what is your agenda here? So when you look at their profile, they are priestess, unicorn princesses who are doing, light code activations. They do tarot cards, which is, and Reiki, and all of this sort of stuff. I mean, the hardcore selling. I mean, the best one is a life coach. I mean, so many labels, so many great tools and opportunities. But again, they're selling you a service, and really it's a distraction because it's their own, if they're hustling, like it's very interesting. So, I didn't know what to do with it. So I actually responded to them. I was like, I kind of was curious, and I was like, hi, so thanks for the Facebook request. I don't actually accept Facebook friends because I don't actually post anything publicly. I just am in, I'm just in some groups that are private that I share stuff with. And they're like, oh, okay, it's just I've just felt, we've got so much in common because we're in a group. And I'm like, you never even like chat. If you feel so connected to someone's like belief systems, and you're really resonating with them, if you don't want to do a big public, oh my god, I did see an ET too, like that you're saying in a dream, if you don't want to share it publicly, private message them and actually have a conversation. It doesn't kill people to have conversations, so
Yeah.
Sharing. So anyway, it seems like people want, oh, if I have heaps of Facebook friends, I'm going to be super popular. Well, no, because half of your Facebook friends are trying to hustle and sell you courses and belief systems that are for their collective, and they're just wanting followers, so you can follow their journey. I honestly have had so many people telling me, I'm a channeler too. I'm like, awesome. I'd love to hear you channel about the new earth, just because I'm really curious of what people are getting. I don't channel like that. Oh, well then how do you channel then? Oh, it's I just speak and I channel. And I'm like, oh, well, tell me what the new earth is then. How do we get there? I'm really curious to know. And then they just don't know what to say and do. Like, oh, my information's different. And I just I have a private group, and it's just a small fee and you can come in and join it. And I'm like, oh, you're selling me the universal information of truth and knowledge. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's when we were talking about, like people coming with offerings and then asking, it's often that, like, I don't know if you experience this when you're mentioning like the Facebook group and people inviting you, but then not having a conversation. Often it'll feel like, like it's almost like I'm being a robot talk to. Like people almost disregard that it's like an actual human being on the other side of the screen. You know what I mean? Like they kind of just come with what they're doing, and it's like, do this, do this, do this, or comply or comply. And yeah,
yeah,
I
so
even I was just
when we are accepting Facebook friends, we get to see all their content, and they're really using Facebook as a not a honest friendship. They're not
yeah,
wanting your honest friendship. They don't really give a fuck about your childhood traumas or whatever. They're wanting to sell you their products, whatever their products are. It could be pyramid schemes, it could be essential oils, it could be a whole bunch of stuff. But they're not seeing an individual person that's behind that. And and it gets embarrassing for them, because I'm like, anyway, so I'm asking them, well, I love that you're a channeler, shared with me your information, and they're not able to share it. And so then they label themselves, they introduce themselves, blah 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 blah, but there's no honest follow through. So that's when I sort of messaged you, and I was like, okay, well, if you want to channel together, we can do that together. And because I have had those experiences with disease and all that sort of stuff, and they are really interesting, and I felt like I could understand what they were doing to you with you.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so when you messaged me and you're like, oh hey, thanks, such a lovely offer, and I was expecting, because I've had this so many times, oh well, no, I just channel and I meditate about it, and I honestly was expecting the same old thing, where it was like, they were just saying channeling, but they think that talking is channeling and not actually fully getting the ego out of the effing way. And when I saw you, you actually thanked me and then shared with me something that's so vulnerable, because honestly, closing your eyes and channeling, it's not normal for us to do that, right? So unless you're sleepwalking or something, I don't know. Anyway, and it was 2 minutes long, so I was like, actually, I don't mind if this guy's pretending to do something that he's not, so I was like, I'm fully open to it, to see it. And I was like, oh wow, he's actually showing me. Because often people will be like, okay, I channeled this paragraph, which is love and light, you're protected, you're loved, love. That's all true, but it's not,
That kind of lack substance in a way. Yeah,
I
it's
saw that.
interesting. It's
If I see that sort of shit in a Hallmark card, I mean, it's valuable and all that sort of stuff, but there is much bigger stuff going on right now. Anyway, so what I saw from you when you shared that video was, I actually saw the inlay overprint, the soul essence of those beings coming in to embody you. And I just thought, oh, I've only seen that once. Oh, I've seen it a few times in actual real life sessions, where I can see the overlay of the essence of this. It's really interesting. And I was like, oh, I saw that, and you hadn't even spoken yet. And I was like, huh, this is kind of cool. Like, where is this going? And then yeah, it was really awesome because I got that full integrity of truth bumps and like inspired with the words. And it was, you know, it was really, it is great, a high perspective of what's happening and why. And, you know, they're really curious. And, you know, there was a whole lot of stuff. So I did appreciate you sharing the truth of your channeling, because I know how vulnerable it is because you're not like, being all out there and, you know, garish with it. It actually was true and honest. And I really appreciate that because I know how vulnerable it feels to share channeling, especially when people are like, you're just making that shit up.
Yeah, yeah, and I really appreciate you like receiving it that way, Joanne, because it's like it was, much like many things in life, there's a certain like leap of faith that it takes to put something like that out there, especially as you said, like having slight, like telepathic communication before is one thing, but then to just have this swirl of energy come around and be guided into a place where I heard somebody recently, like one of the, sort of professional, like, what am I trying to say? Not professional. Anyways, I heard somebody say like channeling can almost be like, you would be able to attest to this. It's like kind of like a funnel where like the energy's there and then it just kind of comes down and it makes its way in. And it is like a vulnerable thing. And there is a certain level of like hesitation and almost like there's a slight fear with it too, because I'm not sure if, the energy or the beings that are coming in are of my highest good and of my best interest.
Yeah.
And, there's also we talked a little bit about like the inner technology. There's that multitasking of like remembering, okay, I can turn this off at any point. I can open my eyes and stand up.
Yeah.
However, I have realized that there is a certain kind of like merger there that happens with the energy, and you almost like, yeah, you just kind of become one. And one thing I was going to share is this morning, a little backstory. I have some First Nations Canadian blood on my grandmother's side, but I don't know my ancestry or my lineage. And much like my sort of past lives and spirit guides, it's been like a lingering fascination. And after channeling Bob and having this experience last night, I was sort of drawn again to sit, and I will send you this video later. But when you talked about like embodying the soul or the spirit and seeing it, this was like another step up because I had basically had like, I won't go into too much detail now, but I had channeled who I believe to be the spirit or soul of the voice I got was Chief Big Bear. And I heard that and I just continued to go with it. And it was a very like dense, old, ancient energy that was like coming from almost like within inside of me, kind of like root chakra up as after it came in. And I went and it was, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, not a lot of talking, but the energy and the words that came out were, it's something I'm still processing. But then I Googled it, and there is a Chief Big Bear from Canada, and I think it said he passed away in 1888. And without, again, making this about me or putting a lot of significance on something like this, I remember and recognize, okay, this is like an energy or someone coming through me and coming to speak through me. But again, as I mentioned with like, the Miles Davis or Bob Marley or whatever, those people in my earlier childhood, still now, teenage years, have been cultural and significant influences personally, right? The music, the art, whatever. So now when this happened, like it kind of shook the shit out of me, for lack of better words, and not in a bad way, in a way where it was like, okay, this is like becoming expansive pretty quickly. But again, I know that I have the ability to like let that in or to just, okay, not right now. You know what I mean? So remembering that it's not like, I'm sitting here figuring out how to uh, like I'm being possessed and then I have to like exercise the demon. Like it's not like that. You know what I mean? And I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. I'm just speaking for whoever else might listen.
Well, I've got a great spell for that. If you just give me some money in my PayPal account, I'll see what I can do. Uh, well, this is the thing. So when I was starting to figure out what's actually going on, I was working with another practitioner, and I actually felt like I needed to understand some basic principles of, life as we know it. And one of the things was I wanted to know if Jesus was real and call him in if he is. And also, is there a devil? Is there a Lucifer? And I knew that was my last question. I knew I was scared. I knew I was scared to know the truth, because what if there was the devil? What if he was, hunting me down for my swearing, and blah 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 blah, and for me, my personal journey, I had to explore all of that stuff to see if I could trust this, because I felt really right, but I don't want to be tricked. I feel like I've been tricked by so many people lying to me, and I've been listening to their words but not seeing the energy behind it. And so, I really learned to face my fears and figure out what was going on there, knowing that I'm in the safety of my own home. Nothing can really get me. We put the pyramid of white light around us. Like, I had all those belief systems that was, keeping me all safe and cozy. And my experience with that was really amazing. And I was so confident to realize I can ask stuff that really scares me and hear information that really empowers me. And I am grateful when I get stuff that I'm scared about now, because I just run to them and be like, oh, so I said this, what do we think? And then they're like, well, you think a lot because you're emotionally retarded over that war. But that was me with 2020 vaccines. But
yeah, I feel like that sometimes during my afternoons.
Just in the weekends. Yeah. And so it's really interesting, from their perspective, the actual metaphysical perspective of it. We can be like worried, in fear, oh, it's monsters, and then they can be like purposeful lessons, experiences.
Yeah, I can totally like resonate and relate to what you're saying. And it's so easy sometimes, especially, like, I think we're both saying, like, trust your friends, and you want to believe the best in what people say, but also like the energy, or seeing through the intentions of sometimes things that can come with that. It's not always easy to trust like the intentions or the motives of other people. And
it's
that's a big.
I have found from sessions, people are so scared that they love the information. Oh my God, I'm special. No. And like, so they'll channel with confidence, they're special, they're loved, they're here for a purpose, they've got a big mission, they are a leader, la 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 la, all this stuff. And then they come out of that session and they're like, you can feel it, like, wow, like I am important. Oh no, sorry, Joe. Oh, sorry. That must sound like ego. Oh no. And I'm like, I've just heard from your subconscious. I've just talked to your subconscious for an hour and a half, and you are important. So suck it up. Suck it up. You are important. Oh no, you must just think something terrible of me. Oh, that's just, sorry, I don't know why I said that. I'm like, because you are. Because you are important. You have a mission. You are needing to be of purpose. Like, I get slightly passionate about it, but it's like you have this amazing experience. You channel the truth of who you are, and then suddenly you want to come back into be like, oh no, must be someone else's subconscious I just channeled, because
Yeah, no, but I think like so much of what you're saying too is like we got to be real with each other, right? In whatever like language it takes place. And one of the things I stand by is like, if I can't be real and raw with myself, I'm not going to go out in the streets, and friggin' tell anybody else what to do or how to live their life. Like, I got to work on trusting myself before I can, trust this guy, or.
From what I've sensed and observed with all of my clients, those big advanced souls are the ones that are trying not to be big and advanced, and don't want to be noticed, and don't want to step up, and don't want to appear like, oh, they're a know-it-all or have leadership qualities, because it's like they already naturally are that. And so, they don't want to, they're still a bit embarrassed about, how advanced they are. Those people that desperately want to be the leaders, and they're striving and they're trying to use their egos to climb the spiritual ladder, those are the ones that actually truly haven't been leaders before. That's why they've got that super thirst, that super drive, that super need to be loved and appreciated and empowered by, people loving and adoring them to boost them up to be of higher status. And it seems like many people wanted to come this lifetime to learn how to be a leader for humanity because they haven't experienced that yet. Whereas there are other true leaders that have, I've been a leader to many planets, like, so heavy.
Yeah.
People,
No.
when you are a leader, and you really have got responsibilities to push people to be their full integrity, their full self, and they're just like, I'm distracted because I want to be angry of the sleepy people and the crimes against humanity. Those leaders are to push them, and no one wants to be pushed. And this is why, honestly, people who have had leadership skills before, no, it's not the glory. There is no glory in being leaders. It is hard work. And most of the time when you're triggering people to grow those seeds, to empower them, they're hating you all of the way. And I know that I've had so many people who've wanted to be leaders in their own industry and fields, and they've gone back and they've been seen that in a tribe, they were teachers, not leaders. And so their leader died and they had to step up into the leadership role, even though they were just teachers. And they actually found it so hard, so unenjoyable, so much responsibility, and actually having to speak and truly lead. And this is why I think a lot of leaders become corrupt, because you guys aren't really empowering yourselves, and I'm getting some kickback because you're not wanting to grow. If it, then I'm just going to be corrupt and take all your money and not care about you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think a lot of like what we're saying, like whether it's like us to our friends or family, or looking at, like world leaders or leaders in our community, or even like leading ourselves, you know what I mean? Like it's it's not um it's not easy to be like courageously brave, or even like vulnerable on the other side of things, in a way that, like as you're saying, has the honesty or the truth right in the middle, even if it stings. Like I just thought of Dolores Cannon. Like one of the things that I like that she says is, she's like, look, if somebody died or you had this or that, the other, like, you got to get over it. You got to forgive yourself. You got to let your shit go. You got to work through your shit and like move on. And, although I'm saying this to you, like my computer screen is a mirror right now, like I'm still receptive to the things that I'm aware of, I guess. And it's, I think a big part of where I'm at too, personally, spiritually, whatever, professionally, I've been working for a while. And that's a big part of this journey for me too, is like in the shift that's happening, without making this too personal, a big part of what I want to do is share this with young people. And I say young people as in like teenagers, early 20s, because, I had my rough childhood and my rough years. And if I had somebody, akin to what you and I are talking about now, saying, look, like, you don't have to listen to that. You don't have to listen to that. Like, take some time to tune into yourself, and, have somebody call me out if I'm being a shitty friend or a shitty person, and just be real and honest with me. It would,
So the truth is,
not be easy to take, but it would be better in the long run, like short-term pain for long-term gain. And I think a lot of people can get confused with that in the spiritual sort of walk or path, because if I come across the word self-mastery a lot. I'm no master, but if we're not even like making an attempt to at least try to, like, I don't want to say do a little bit more tomorrow or do a little bit better, but at least like be self-aware in the aspect of um like what other people are saying to us. As I said, if I'm being a shitty friend, or if I'm like, XYZ, whatever, like, um, yeah, I'm not sure, like,
it's
just,
lots of children come in to help awaken their parents to their own behaviors. So lots of parents could be doing drugs or partying and having a really self-destructive life. When you actually have to focus on someone else beyond yourself, you actually become more responsible, and you actually want to be a better person. You actually want to think about all of the pain of your own childhood, to then be like, well, I'm not going to let that happen to my child. And so you commit yourself to having a better way of life. And, even if it doesn't quite pan out as you expect, because your children, aren't you, and you aren't your parents. And so, it's really significant. Lots of people who still feel like, oh gosh, the state of the world's so hard, I'm going to medicate myself. Oh my gosh, I've got more children, I need to medicate myself twice. And it feels like, the children are here to awaken the parents, to empower them, to love them. And to, once you start loving someone else, you actually realize you can start loving yourself. And when your children are unconditionally loving to you, then you feel like, actually, I need to be more present. I actually have a place in the world. And it seems like a lot of these advanced souls who are here, who are the teenagers, who are sort of people that you feel like you could reach out to, potentially those are the ones who have parents that still haven't awoken, that are choosing drugs over being present to empower themselves to heal. And they're not seeing their gifts, which are their children, in their faces, saying, I'm here, be present with me, be present with me. Choose me over drugs, choose me over your job addiction, choose me, and to have a relationship with me. And they are feeling more disconnected than ever because they're not feeling seen or heard. And by the people they're supposed to get their attention, to be seen and heard. And if your life purpose and mission is to be being seen and heard from your parent, for your parents to be able to help them in their journey for their important lifetime here, it can be very challenging, because if your life purpose and contract is to be here to awaken your parents and your parents are still ignoring you, can you understand that extra disconnect pressure of, if I'm not on purpose and I'm not of service how I know I was supposed to be here, do I matter? Do I count? And these can be the children that take exit points to brutally awaken those parents who have refused to see what was right in front of them. And we can often wake up to things that we love, that we have not respected, not appreciated, when they've gone.
Yeah. And I agree with like so much of it, like everything you said, Joanne. I think that's like something that we see a lot in other people, is like, when you see the potential in yourself, or you see the potential in other people, and the way that sometimes people believe in themselves, whether it's like overabundantly or lacking, whatever the case may be, like sometimes I want to, whether it's, I'm not going to single anybody out. Sometimes I just want to kind of like shake people and be like, do you know what you're capable of? Like, give yourself a chance. And, like, as you said, like, just, yeah, like the self-realization, is so much of what has I had to overcome it. And I'm so grateful that like I have you to talk through this and process this with, because, yeah, that's a big part of my heart, is like, overcoming a lot of stuff, still having things to work through, but just seeing the way that people disservice themselves, it's heartbreaking sometimes. And that's something that, like, similarly to like looking at someone and be like, hey, you're being a shithead right now, you're better than that. Sometimes the hardest thing is like kind of just have to walk away. And that's, it's not always what I want to do, but it's like, I'm sure like it's very, in the context of your work, like have helped people subconsciously through therapeutic sessions. Like, I think it's fair to say, like, different ends of the spectrum, right? I'm sitting here and I'm not working, and I do not do that type of like laborious emotional activity, or energetic activity. And I hope I'm not like projecting or putting anything onto your work. I hope.
But I mean, we all have different life contracts and roles, and we can't all be the same, thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
So the roles and the purpose of our small fraction of being the wheel of everything on earth is significant. And this is where I think a lot of people can get confused about what their role and purpose is. They may see someone else and, oh, that looks so easy. Oh, that looks good. I want to be them. And often people don't actually see what it really is to be them. And so what you're sort of saying is, well, I'm just at home, I'm not working at the moment. And, you know, I know you want to connect in with others and you feel like you are in a really great stable position to be of service to others, but I want you to be reminded that you've always been of service to others. You're energetically glowing with your high frequency to be able to remove all the density from your community. And, you know, everything that you put in does have that natural love, integrity, and intention. And you aren't that love and light faker where you're just saying those words but really meaning this to them. And see, while I'm using my spiritual codes of love and light to you. But you know, when you write,
believe me, I have those moments, Joanne. This is my magic wand. That's the magic wand.
The magic wands.
Yeah. And I really appreciate I appreciate you saying that, because, you know, like, I think through this, like, you know, I've come to learn that in the spiritual walk, there's many sort of, you know, deaths of self, as they say. It's a continual process. And like, I really appreciate your compliment, because I've had other people, you know, say, like, I'm too hard on myself, or I, you know, am second guessing myself. And I can understand that that sort of nature is about me. And I think, like, having these conversations and having, you know, the belief and the support from a genuine place that I know, and the fact that, like, we've never met, we're on the other side of the world, like, it's
And so I know that some people say that they are too hard on themselves, and so when they are beating themselves up for not always being of true love and light, and sometimes being angry with other people who are hurting them or frustrating them or whatever, you know, on our growth and journey, you know, we have to accept all of the responses and have, you know, knowing what our moral compass feels like if we are being, you know, not honestly nice and empowering to others, and all that sort of stuff. It is honoring our journey. I feel still though, when we are hard on ourselves, this is when we keep questioning, like, you know, what is my motive here? What is my agenda? What am I truly getting from people? It wasn't until I realized that sometimes, you know, a few years ago, I was, you know, had a little drama in my life, and I would like run out to my friends and be like, you know, oh no, because I wanted them to fix it. I wanted them to tell me that, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that to you. So, you know, like, I was needing other people to fight my fights and to be outraged for me because I was struggling with the world of, you know, like, someone shortchanged me at the supermarket, you know, and, you know, like, oh my God, like, I would want everyone to be hearing my story of how I was struggling in life, you know. And I realized that every time I was trying to seek other people's attention, or to need to grab something from other people, you know, I actually realized that there was like an addiction to kind of be a victim, and there was to have problems and to have the drama, and that was distracting me from actually dealing with my problems, dealing with the drama, and actually realizing, okay, I could choose to have this big reaction or not. I could feel like maybe this person's just having a shitty day or not. Like, you know, I used to blow out things into so proportion. And I think what we said to each other the other day is, oh, we could hold on to some this and this a little bit too.
Hey, for sure that's me. And you know, I can relate to what you're saying too. Like, there's definitely been times you know, you mentioned childhood trauma. Like, I've definitely had a lot, and through my teenage years, whether that's my own bad choices, circumstances, but yeah, a lot of it does come back to, like, kind of like you were saying, like, realizing when to, like, hone myself in and take responsibility for stuff, because I've been many times, like, kind of like, I'm not saying you're saying this, like, in my own way, like, kind of cry wolf a little bit, and I'm like, oh, I could, like, need help with this, or, you know, like, you know, can someone notice this? And then I think back, like, oh, maybe now I've just overwhelmed myself, because I didn't need to put that out there, and I didn't need to go, you know, do this. It was a spontaneous thing.
It does seem like something, like, if you've been neglected and ignored as a child, then when we sort of, you know, have more interactions with other people, we do need that support and that stuff. I know, you know, I know some spiritual adults that still find themselves in hospital, you know, because when they're in hospital, that's a legitimate reason for them to get attention. and
Right.
they hold on to that. And obviously we make ourselves sick. There's purposes and lessons for it, but that's when they feel like they're allowed to be vulnerable and be like, do I have any friends? I'm going to put a little photo of myself on Instagram and Facebook with a little drip on my arm. It's really going to be up close and personal, tight, just so you know I'm in pain. And I might just say hashtag Wednesday sad face. Like,
Yeah.
and they'd just be mysterious or whatever. And I mean, you can see it for what it is, and we've all been there potentially, right? So it's not. But when we can't help ourselves and we are crying out for help from others, we can still help others, but it's a difference between empowering them or disempowering them. Every time, oh, you've got the sniffles, oh my gosh, you poor thing. Don't do any inner work. Don't find out what the upgrade's about. Just let me care for you. And people who want to help others, love those friends who have those problems, because yes, I can help you again. I love that your life is so effed up that I can feel like I'm helping you. Whereas we're not helping them to be able to empower themselves to find their own purposes and lessons. Sometimes we have to have a little bit of tough love. And that's what you're sort of saying. You sort of feel like you can step back a little bit. And, that's the difference between empowering people truly to empower themselves, to heal themselves, or disempowering people with like, oh, you don't have love for yourself? Don't worry about it. I'm going to smother the shit out of you with my love. And it's going to be all me on you for you to not even be able to grow, because I won't let you, because I'm going to heal you. I'm going to fix you.
Yeah, that's true. And it can almost be like an easy thing, and I've been there too, like an easy thing to like cling on to or grab to is like the help or the wanting to help somebody. And then it can, I'll say it, I've been in toxic romantic relationships and it turns into a codependency, and next thing you know, it's like not what you wanted or what you intended. And
I mean, I think this is part of just being honest. Like, we've all done that. Am I now been taken to hell? And Jesus is like, yeah, I'm going to drive you to hell, bitch, because you are, the devil. Like, we actually have to realize and face our fears. Okay, well, it was an experience, but what's happening to us? What are the consequences of that? Was it life contracts? Was it me just sort of distracting myself not to grow? Being honest with actually being accountable for where we've gone. I think when I remember that, I was, a hot mess in all different various forms and shapes as I was going through my life journey, not noticing that was supposed to empower me, and I totally let everything disempower me. I did that to myself, and I know what I needed. I needed some love and some empowerment. And, when you are so broken and you're so convinced the world hates you, like deeply hates you, and you are a piece of shit, when you feel that and see that, and you're looking for confirmation that you are a piece of shit, that is a very, very challenging place. And I think maybe we've all been there at some point. And we can tell when people are sort of like pretending that they're there versus no, they're actually there. And that's when we've got to remind them who they are, remind them that they're souls having human experiences, that, you aren't ever able to be a piece of shit. And if you are officially a piece of shit, it's probably your life contract. Embrace it, celebrate it. To all of those politicians out there.
It kind of makes me think back to like what you were saying though about, or when we were talking about like the success and failure and like the labels that we can put on ourselves, and then they sink into our subconscious. And it's like, yeah, there's been many times too where I've told myself like, I don't deserve this, I'm not worth this, like, I came from this, so I don't that, or the justification or the reasoning. And then we can have outside influence too. And it's like, yeah,
we have to question, what is our motives here? Are we posting for attention, or are we posting for love to support others? What are we doing to post? Why are we not posting? When you see someone needing help, are we ignoring them or something else? Or, like, what is our motives? We have to, while we're pretending to the world that we are loving and lighting everyone, we actually need to be truly loving and lighting everyone, but know the difference between, loving someone to keep looping into disempowerment, versus loving someone who is truly in a dark spot to empower them to grow. And that was what I really liked about when I connected into Archangel Lucifer. And he said he would find the people in the darkness and show them to the light. And I just thought, well, that's quite nice. You're not actually an asshole at all. You're actually quite charming. And, you know, but then of course, feeling that and experiencing that and hearing his amazing senses and all that sort of stuff, I thought, oh, that's it. No one ever will want to listen to what I have to say, because I actually appreciated that connection I had with an Archangel Lucifer, that people think he's the monster devil. And, you know, when I started channeling about the reptilian collectives, and people were like, oh no, she's a, you know, she respects the reptilians. She's obviously, you know, a shill. She's a psyop, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, okay, well, you do you and fear and judgment and all that sort of stuff, because the other people that actually are open-minded to realize we can't create an entire collective to be evil. That is a really stupid, lazy assumption that is going to limit you and block you and make you think that you're elitist while you are human. I mean,
Yeah.
bless the human mind who thinks they're the most advanced creators of the universe, where they create their own reality.
With the so it's just, as my perspective has shifted over the last few months, it's refreshing and kind of joyful to share the perspective. When you channeled Lucifer, that like threw me for a loop in the best of ways. Is that something you share often? Is that one that, you know, is discussed much with?
What you will find, because I feel like you're a very similar channel to me, is that whoever you want to connect and to hear their message for humanity. And so that's what I originally did, you know, like over 3 years ago now, is working with a channeler and interviewing them. What is your purpose? What was your mission? What was your life contract? What did you learn? How did you understand spirituality when you were alive, being that person? What did you think about the after death? What are you doing in the afterlife? What happened? Tell me more about it. You know, like I wanted them to like mansplain to me their lives from their perspectives. And they were always really amazing perspectives I've never considered or pondered before. And so when I get a feeling or a sense that a certain being wants to be channeled through, you know, because I'm only human, and so I can only label certain energies. And so, you know, I know that, for example, when Bruce Lee came in the other day, you know, he was there, but then he merged into his bigger collective because they had a bigger message to share with humanity more than just his life. But I was surprised. He told me he had some books, and I was like, you have books? I had to Google, and I was like, oh, he has books. He was telling me the truth. I had no idea. I was like, but you were a movie person, weren't you? So yeah, sorry. I this is when they were saying, oh, she doesn't know who he is. And I was like, well, does it matter? Do I have to know who you are to be able to channel your message to humanity? Apparently not, because they've got so much information that they need to share with their own collectives, and we need to find the bigger perspectives as fast as possible and apply them.
Interesting. Well, definitely, I appreciate that, because that's another little bit of advice too, is I keep honing this skill. You mentioned like when you were channeling Bruce, then he came with a collective. Like, was it just sort of like a collective, like bigger energy with more information?
So it's like I don't focus on the amounts of energy, because it's just it's a love frequency, and I can't express it. And I feel like if I try to mansplain how I sense it, it may confuse people to be trying to understand how it works for me, when everyone should be trying to work out how it works for you. And so I know you're sort of saying that the other channeler was saying it's a cone on my head. I literally would be like, I can't feel the cone. Is it this shape? Where is that cone? Oh shit, I can't do it. You know, like I would try to make it work. And you know, it just, people's journeys are different. Anyway, so I could sense in, and it was him, and he'd already had independently talked to me about how he wanted to talk about guns and the power of guns, and how it's kind of made us not be responsible for the strength of our own bodies and to communicate, because I'm just going to shoot you. I don't need to talk to you. I'm just going to shoot you. You know, I'm not going to find out, oh, you're coming to my house because you're actually, your family's had an accident, and, you know, your baby's trapped in a car, and you're coming into my house in the middle of the night all panicky and you're hysterical. I'm just going to shoot you because I don't give a fuck what's happening for you. Okay. So bang, bang, you're dead when you tried to get my help. And so, you know, there's lots of things that they're quite angry about how we hurt each other. And we think that we're protected. And we are protected. I haven't really talked about the gun thing. Because I think it's just my feelings on it, and I don't want to be opinionated. And I want to hear, but it feels like it's another way that humanity has lost its balance and harmony with each other in the world.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I was just watching something earlier about, yeah, like not about war. Somebody was talking about like the context of war and all that, and you know, as guns, and it's just like, yeah, it's, um, I guess for me, it kind of just goes back to like what we were saying about, you know, like the potential and seeing like what we are capable of when we like put that shit down and like stop and like, you know, talk to each other and be real and be honest is like not only how powerful we are individually, but also like how powerful we are like together when the unity comes together on the same like, you know, beliefs or the same um, purpose or motive or intention and you know like yeah.
It's super windy here, and my kitchen's making noises with the distractor fan. So sorry about the noises. It's such a big topic, and I can feel how destructive war has been, and it was supposed to make us empowered and grow and never disrespect each other and see each other as unity and one. And you know, it's our houses, it's our families that are getting destroyed while there are leaders guiding this. And
Yeah.
if your leaders loved you and really wanted to support you and empower you to grow, you know, they wouldn't be doing the things that they've been doing, you know. But then that's human judgment, and potentially, you know, there needs to be a metaphysical perspective and reasons to learn from that as well. So
No,
you know,
I mean, hey, I agree too for sure. I noticed we've been on here. I'm not sure what your time's like.
I'm just going to say farewell. I'm going to stop the video. Hang on. Bye.